49 and 6.7 inches fell on Sunday as heavy snow coated roofs and buildings and sidewalks, and what a winter wonderland right here. Now, we've got another one here by the end of this week, another big storm system that we have to track. Let's show you where it all begins. It's actually over here over the southwest. So we're watching this big upper level low and the energy it brings as it tracks across the southern Rockies and then moves over here across the middle of the country. Of course, it's not even really onshore yet. So there's some differences in the models, how this all plays out. We take you into the end of the week. This is Friday. We've got a big dip now over the middle of the country in the jet stream. Steph talked about that flip-flop in the pattern, and what that's going to allow us to do is see a storm system developing here, tap into maybe a little subtropical moisture, and that will allow the system to be a little more robust in terms of how much rain and how much snow it produces. All right, so here we go, getting into your Friday forecast. This is the European model. There are model differences. The Euro does bring some snowfall all the way down through Colorado, a stripe of snow that we would see out into the central plains. The GFS has a weaker system, less precip, doesn't tap into that subtropical moisture as much. Neither one is a blockbuster storm, but certainly one that will provide impacts, and especially you look ahead, the timing wise, this is Friday, this is getting into the weekend, so you got to watch this. Now, the European model, we take this out for you into your Saturday. We've got a stripe of snow from eastern Iowa into northern Illinois, Chicago. We're looking at you. Here's the GFS, has a similar track. Does bring some snowfall to Chicago, but again, not as strong as a system and maybe not as much moisture with it. So there are differences right now in the forecast. You take a look at the potential with the Euro. You've got the potential for some decent snow, the plowable kind, the shovelable kind, the kind that's going to be changing your plans for you as we look ahead from Iowa into Illinois. And then the GFS model has less, but still has some snow, and especially heavier snow up into lower Michigan. So what does that mean for your forecast, Steph?
Which is showing us a 2 months
this time of year. Then we fall back down to more normal temperatures. I'll put that in quotes here for the end of the weekend. What's normal anymore, right? It's been warm. Let's take you into some of the numbers that we're going to see. We do have this, seesaw pattern, if you will, with temperatures. It's a chilly start to the week for a lot of us in the east. It's a warm start in a lot of the west, but then we're going to flip and flop that here and give you a big change in your temperatures. So 10 to 30 degrees above average in parts of the heartland, in the northern plains, in the northern Rockies. We got a lot of warm air up here. Records will be broken. I mean, look at the numbers. Pierre, South Dakota, 61 degrees. It's December the 8th, right? All right, so Bismarck, 58 for us will be a record. The old record is 56, so we're breaking that. We're doing the same thing in Sheridan, Wyoming, Rapid City, North Platte, breaking all of these records with temperatures in the upper 50s and low 60s. Compare that to, let's say, Charleston, South Carolina. If you were to plan a trip in December and you think, oh, what's going to be warm, Bismarck or Charleston, I'll go to Charleston, right? Nope. Not today. Charleston's only going to be 52 degrees because we are on the other side of that jet stream. But things are going to change. You see how these warm colors all start to shift east as we get into your Thursday. So temperatures warming up in Chicago, warming up in Nashville and Memphis and Dallas and Houston. Temperatures are going to be on the upswing in Raleigh, where you had a little snow yesterday. Yeah, we're warming up big time by the end of the week and going above average. Some of the biggest departures from average will be up here across the western lakes, and that's where those temperatures are going to be getting up close to those record-breaking numbers. Just adding more warmth to this already really warm year. In fact, you look at Florida, our top warmest year on record so far to date in all of these spots, in Orlando, in Fort Myers, in Tampa, in Jacksonville, in Miami. Yes, our warmest year to date on record. Maybe no surprise to you living there, right? Now we take a look at the rest of the Southeast. If you're not number one, you're at least top 5 here. We've got Wilmington coming in at number 1, but Macon's number 2, Asheville's number 2, Chattanooga's number 3, warmest year to date on record. The Northeast as well. I know you guys are still digging out of a snowstorm after this weekend, but you know what? We've got our top warmest year to date on record in Atlantic City and in New York City. And it's not just this year, Steph. There's a trend that we've been noticing.
There is, and so that's what we want to focus on here, because we have seen a lot of warmth, not only with the highs, but also with our lows as well, as you can see behind me here.
Yeah, it's December. Let it snow, right? Welcome back into AMHQ, and thanks for spending some of your Tuesday morning with us. I'm meteorologist Jen Carfagno, alongside meteorologist Stephanie Abrams and Chris Bruin. It was a snowy scene in New England as snow blanketing Holden, Massachusetts. Take a look at this. I mean, this is Christmas, right? You see it all piled up here, especially with all the holiday decorations. We had snow coming down this morning in parts of New England, causing some school delays and interstate issues. And we're talking about some ocean effect snow out there as well, Steph. It's always really cool when you don't really expect it, right? Like, wait, where's that snow coming from?
Yeah, so we have a low pressure that's
beginning to look a lot
And it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas here in the mountains of northwest China. We've got an expanse of crystal white as the trees have been covered with a layer of rime ice following days of heavy snow and frigid temperatures. I mean, look at this. It looks stunning, right? Well, this leads us to today's weather wisdom question. Josh asks, what is the difference between hoarfrost and rime ice? This is a question we get every year here, and it's a tough one, actually, to distinguish between. He also sent along this picture saying he woke up to a beautiful foggy morning, and once the fog lifted, he was left with this beautiful ice formation, and he wondered what it was. Well, because there was fog, that's a clue. So let's talk about the difference between the two, the hoarfrost and the rime ice. So basically, you know, when you have dew and you have fog out there developing on surfaces that are below freezing, then you can get rime ice here. Basically, the ground emits radiation, it cools overnight, and frost forms if temperatures are below freezing. So rime ice is when that dense fog comes in contact with sub-freezing temperatures. Hoarfrost will happen on a clear night, a cold night, but a clear night, and you get deposition of moisture on particles, on surfaces that are sub-freezing on a cold, clear night, but there's enough moisture in the air. So it requires more moist air than regular frost, right, because you have the clear conditions. Ideally, you need 1 or more days of freezing fog. The buildup of interlocking crystal structures is a beautiful, beautiful scene, and most common in late fall, winter, and early spring, of course, because you need the cold temperatures. We have a lot of freezing fog out there this morning, and maybe some of you are dealing with some rime ice, especially across parts of the Central Plains, like into Kansas. And sidewalks and just a winter wonderland, as you can see here in Caribou. We've got another system this week that we're going to watch across the country, so let's take a look at that one. It all starts actually in the southwest. So we see this big upper level low spinning out here. This is on the move. It's going to cross over, take a southern track. We're going to see it move through the southern Rockies, go out into the plains, the Midwest, and the lakes, and then we take it from there. So here we go with where it is right now. It's kind of cut off. It's got no steering, right? It's underneath this big ridge of high pressure up to the north. But things will evolve as we get to the middle of the week. We get a trough building within our jet stream. That picks it up and brings up the energy here to give us a system right across the middle of the nation, right into the plains. Do we tap into some moisture from that subtropical jet stream and give a little extra boost to the storm? Well, the models have some differences into what they think this will, how this will play out. The European model takes us into Thursday, and we see our surface low developing, and we see snow here from the Colorado Rockies down into the Rockies of New Mexico, spreading out into the plains. It's a little more robust, a stronger low, has a bit more moisture compared to the GFS models you can see there. Then we take you into the weekend. The tracks are similar for both of these, but the European model has a stronger system and a bit more moisture as we track this up here right through the Midwest into the Great Lakes. So now we're looking at some snowfall potential in cities like Chicago and Davenport and Peoria. Yes, you guys all have the chance for snowfall. This is the Euro model, has a decent stretch of snow. This is the kind of snow you're shoveling, you're plowing, it's keeping you home on Saturday. You look at the GFS model, hardly anything right there, right? But much more of a bigger footprint across parts of lower Michigan. So there's model uncertainties. How does that look in the forecast for right now?
We're going to start off with the snowy side because there is.
Take a look out there. We are riding the upswing of roller coaster temperatures this week. Now, today, we're going to be 41 degrees, right? Not too bad. But tomorrow, 50. How about that? That is 13 degrees above average for this time of year. Then we fall back to more normal temperatures, and I'll put that in quotes, by the end of the weekend. Because what's normal anymore, right? You know, we've had so many warm days. I'm going to get to just how warm this year has been. But the warmth so far this week has been across the West. This is where we have the big ridge of high pressure. This is where we've been breaking records, right across California yesterday. Saw Sacramento. You guys were super, super hot. Now, today, we're going to see this big ridge driving up temperatures right across the northern Rockies, the northern plains. We've got 50s and 60s all the way in places you probably don't expect it in December. Yes, take a look at Bismarck, North Dakota, 58 degrees. That breaks the old record of 56 set back in 1939. We've got Sheridan, Wyoming, and Rapid City and North Platte, all breaking records. We're practically 70 in these places. Look at North Platte, 68 degrees. That would tie the old record set back in 1970. You know, if you were thinking about a December trip and where do you want to go to get a little warmth, you wouldn't think Bismarck, right? You might think Charleston, South Carolina, but not today. Charleston, you're going to be 52 degrees. Bismarck, you're going to be 58 degrees. And we've got that warmth building eastbound as we get throughout the rest of the week. So Wednesday and Thursday, it's right here across the Central Plains and the Heartland and the Great Lakes. We are warming up. Temperatures going anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees above average all the way to the eastern seaboard. You can see how this all spreads out. Your places that are really quite cold this morning with wind chills in the teens. You're going to be seeing those temperatures warm up by the time we get to the end of the week. You'll have forgotten all about this chill that you have this morning. Now, it has certainly been a warm year. You look at Florida. We are all running our top year-to-date warmest year here in Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, Fort Myers, Tampa, all of us. #1 so far, warmest year to date. The rest of the Southeast, you might not be #1, but you're in the top 5, and you are #1 in Wilmington, #2 in Macon, Asheville too as well, and then go to the Northeast, where I know it's cold this morning, but we are actually running our top warmest year on record so far in Atlantic City and New York City, #3 in D.C. And this is not just a this year kind of trend. This is something that we've noticed over the past decade.
So when we talk about climate also, we're talking about a 30-year period, right? A big chunk. And as we look at that, you can see behind me how
you only got 3/4 of an inch. But still, it snowed in December, right? We are certainly turning the season for a lot of you. And welcome back into AMHQ. And thanks for spending some of your Tuesday morning with us. Meteorologist Jen Carfagno alongside meteorologist Stephanie Abrams and Chris Bruin. And we have some ocean effect snow happening right now. It is causing some slick conditions out there, even some issues on some of the Massachusetts roadways this morning. We've got wires down, power lines down in parts of Cape Cod, some of them falling on a truck. Look at this. That power pole is right across. Wow, look at this here. And that line is down. You can see actually what's accumulated on the power lines as well. Looks like a little bit of ice. I bet you that freezing fog played a factor as well, because that adds a little bit of weight. Then you get some of that wet snowfall. I mean, Steph, even places where it's not snowing, the freezing fog is causing some issues. Sort of like a freezing mist in Connecticut this morning.
I mean,
look a lot like Christmas right here. This is in the mountains of northwest China. We have got an expanse of crystal white. The trees have been covered with a layer of rime ice following days of heavy snow and frigid temperatures. And this, I mean, it's a beautiful scene, right? But that leads us right into today's weather wisdom question. Josh asks, what is the difference between hoarfrost and rime ice? This is a question we get every year, and it's always good to talk about this here because it's confusing. He sent along a picture. Thank you. Pictures are always good. He's saying he woke up to a beautiful foggy morning, and then once the fog lifted, he was left behind with this beautiful ice formation. So I'm looking closer at this picture, and I think this actually is hoarfrost. You see how it's kind of feathery? Now, there's some differences between the two, so let's talk about that actually. First of all, how do you get, in the first place, frost to develop? Well, overnight, you know, you get the ground to cool, and the ground emits radiation, and it cools down. The air right above that cools down first. And so dew develops when the air cools enough to become saturated. And then frost forms when dew develops in temperatures below freezing. Now, when you talk about hoarfrost versus rime ice, dense fog, rime ice, dense fog coming in contact with sub-freezing surfaces. So that picture, it was below freezing. We did have the fog. The hoarfrost is a deposition of moisture on a cold, clear, calm night. Basically, you know, you have the water vapor in the atmosphere that goes instantly from vapor into solid, into the ice for the hoarfrost. But it always has that sort of feathery look to it. So that's why I'm thinking that might have been hoarfrost. It requires more moisture than just regular frost, and ideally 1 or more days of freezing fog, and it's a buildup of interlocking crystal structures.